Okay, so I've been in the previous, section. I've been talking about the advantages and how ICT and the education system is working together. So, and we saw some of the advantages. We saw even why we need to have ICT being infused in our education system. Now, going further now, looking at this topic, looking at these issues, now is bringing me to another step or to another program or stage where we talk about what are the common media that are used in distance learning. What are the common ones? It's not everything that is used in the distance learning, but maybe we can know some of them that are there. So please pay attention to this lecture because we're going to talk about the type of media, because you should understand the type of media that is used in the distance learning. You as educators, you must understand how do you facilitate your teaching and practice processes when you don't have the knowledge in this. So I encourage you to be more attentive and be able to grasp as much knowledge as possible for us to, to improve, the role, to encourage, learners, teachers, and so on. So one of the role of the education in the operation of the open distance learning runs from the spectrum of administration and the management of distance learning institutions. So this, we have seen that this role of education technology is still needed in this and really has a very important functions. And this looks at a broader, view of administration and the management of distance learning institutions. So those institutions now that are running this distance, like Gideon Roberts University, is an example. We are saying that there's administration that is looking at that, and also the management. There's a team that is managing. We have the deans for the schools and so on. And then we have the coordinator for open distance learning. So these, they coordinate and then they operate very well. Really looking at the detail about how do you develop the package for the learners. What instructions are you giving to the students? That is critical. And then we are going to look at instructional delivery. How are the deliveries done? How are the instructions delivered? Course material design. This looks at also how do we design the materials for the open distance learning. For the open distance learning, the design is different from the full-time. The full-time students, they spend most of 8 hours at the university. They come at 8 hours and knock off when the lectures finish. But for the distance one, they're out there. So we need to develop study material strategically that we are able to target them. We also conduct during this period as a distance learning, we're conducting exams. Okay, for distance learning, when they come for their residential period, we conduct exams. There are two things that normally happens when the residential school is open. This I need to emphasize. One, there are two groups that come. One, the first group is that one that have joined the institution. Now they want to learn. We'll teach them for 2 weeks. They learn, they go back. The second group is the one that was previously enrolled and they learned during that time, and then when they are coming for the residential now, they are coming for writing exams. So these, we do them activities. So we have, like at Gideon Roberts University, normally we have 2 timetables. We have timetable for examination for the distance students or open students, and then we have also for the ones that are coming just to learn. These two run concurrently as we support these services and so on. So let's talk about now the common media in distance learning. So one of them is the radio, isn't it? The radio, these are the ones that have been used in this common media, radio, broadcast radio. You know that a radio plays a very important thing. For example, if there is a program on the TV, on the radio, talking about storytelling, somebody storytelling. There are some programs here where people start talking about funny stories, and they are quite interesting. People like them. So find that they come maybe around 19 or 20 hours. People will be glued to that radio and start listening to that story. Yeah, and start imagining, this person went in the bush and met a lion. What does it mean? So the learners, the people that are listening, they started imagining, they're having pictures. Lion. Oh, this. So that kind of thing. So a radio came as one of the powerful tools and effective medium through which audience, and in this case, distant learners, can be reached. A radio is found in almost every home. At least even if you go very far where people are not, but at least you can find 2 or 3 people with a radio. So in that case, if there's a education program that has been recorded and broadcast at a particular period of time, then we expect that those learners are going to be reached on that particular specific time. So the radio can mean 2 things. Okay, the radio broadcasting. Sorry, this is basically for direct consumption. They record a broadcast, and then you are listening right away as they are doing it. Okay. There are also some record. There is also another way where a radio, the recordings are done and broadcast and stored for a certain period and used in a different way or used at a later stage. Maybe using audio materials. Okay, the audio which has been put directly on the cassettes. You remember I was talking about the cassettes. We had cassettes in the past. We had cassettes, and all the music, they could record them there. We play them. We had at D, whatever, D90, D60. Some that could play 60 minutes. Some would play 1 hour, 30 minutes. These cassettes were there. Okay, practical cassette. Have you seen the cassettes yourself in your life? From now you must learn that there were cassettes. You ask your grandmother or your parents, they'll tell you that there were cassettes. These were produced by the producer, and they were trying to, all the purpose was trying now to encourage people to have access to quality education. Going now, I was just talking about the radio broadcast. This one, which is where I'm saying that this one is a powerful tool. It has been utilized. It's one of the effective medium for instruction and reaching out to the target audience. And in this case, these are distance learners. And we talked about the radio as 2 things. There's a record, there's a broadcast that can be done primarily just direct for consumption to the learner, and also there are those that they have recorded and then they have kept them, and then they have been put directly on the cassettes by the producer. Basically, they can run them to at any time. The cassettes, I remember when we put them in the radio, and they are just in a rectangular, and then there are the rollers, then the tape could roll as you put it in the radio there. So somebody can listen to the recording there and get the knowledge that they need. You can play it later as long as you have the facility to do that. And these are some of the things that technology has come about. So radio is one of them, the common media that is used in distance learning, of course. Yeah. So what are the advantages of radio in distance education? Of course, the radio is less expensive. There are smaller radios that you can play. Some you can even carry. You can even put it in your pocket. Some they use smaller batteries. Some they use bigger batteries. Some they use electricity. But the ones that are more effective, I think, catering in wider range, are those that are using batteries. Because for electricity, not everyone is able to access electricity everywhere out there in the world. So the radio is becoming less expensive and is easy. It's widely used to solve problems associated with geographical and economical constraints. There are people that are isolated in terms of geographically. There are people that in terms of economies is not good, but they can afford at least a radio, okay, to deliver the lecture in the distance education. Second, the advantage is that it can reach a large number of audience, okay, those that are dispersed in different locations. Okay, you can disseminate with a single message. Just a single message, you can disseminate to. It's like a match on the bush grass, dry grass. Waikapoka matches, we put a stick there, and it will blow off all the bushes that the grass is dry. So that one. So with a single message in the radio that has been recorded, then large number of people or large number of learners can be able to access that study material. So as a radio, it's a audio kind of thing, because you are just listening, but you don't see. You can hear the voices of the people, but you can't see them. Okay? At one time, I remember when I was young, I had to break a radio. My father had to beat me because I was thinking that there are some people in the radio who are talking. But that is audio, means that they have recorded the voice, and that voice is what now you can listen to. Okay? And imagination now, because if they are talking, you're also creating images in your mind. Say, but they're talking about this. How do about this? Then you are creating, as a learner now, starting imaginative and being creative. So this trains quite number of. So for you to be a good learner, if you are using the radio, you must be a good listener. Make sure if you have challenges in terms of listening, you make sure that you try to understand this. Of course, if you talk about the special education, when you talk about special education or the means of education, it talks about inclusive education, meaning that you are targeting those that are also physically disadvantaged. So there are special also tools that are used to address the issue of education. So in another module, we shall talk more about the tools that talk about this. But for now, let's zero into this. So those are some of the advantages. So as I talk about, please, as learners, ensure that you understand what is the common media used in distance education, 1. 2, what are the advantages, what is the radio, and what are the advantages of using the radio as a medium of instruction. Yeah, of course, we have talked about the advantages, and we have talked about also the advantage of the radio. Now, further, let's also look at, of course, the radio also it has got certain limitations, and you people that the radio also it has certain limitations. One limitation that it compels students or learners to be at that time of broadcasting. So when the time of broadcasting, if the broadcasting is at 19 hours, for example, then you have to be there by 19 hours. Because at that time, that is when the program will start. Once you are late, then you miss it. That means maybe another time. So there are certain periods. You find that maybe such a program will run maybe in a week, maybe 3 times, maybe for 1 hour or so. So it depends on the needs of the clients and also what is the target and also the materials that you want to deliver. So in terms of estimating the cost, okay, so we have seen that it is rather difficult to operate broadcasting facilities. For example, like Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, you understand that it's one of the local, broadcaster. So for it to run, for the cost, look at issues to do infrastructure, the equipment that are used in the studios at ZNBC. So maybe government had to spend a lot of money, to ensure that they procure new advanced, equipment, and also running, infrastructure, maybe buildings, maintenance, and so electricity. Okay. Then we talk about also the manpower, salaries, overhead, cost. So this it may be a bit limited to the radio because unless where the funding is good, but generally to have those challenges. Okay.